even think about like the Prophet ﷺ, he said like the ummah is going to be so massive, massive, and but so weak, like the foam of the sea, right? Initially, initially, like weak like the foam of the sea. So Sahaba like, is it because we're few in number? The Prophet ﷺ was like, no, there's so many of them, there's so many Muslims, but they have wahin. What is wahin, ya Rasulullah? They didn't know what that word meant. Essentially, it was the love of this dunya and the hating of death, right? What does that mean? That means people have lost the sense of value of the akhirah, the sense of what does this world really represent? It's just a journey. It's just a stopping point. But we've lost all sense of that. We are relying on our happiness to be in this world. So that's one aspect of it, right? But then the aspect of salah and the rushing through the salah, because I have phases like that where I'm just going through it, or I'm not praying my sunnahs anymore like I used to pray my sunnahs, and then my salahs are being rushed. I don't worry as much about catching salahs in the masjid, for example, per se, or delaying them a little more, being focused. All of it is just a sign that you don't understand who is the true provider of everything that you have. Because at the end of the day, if it took your attention, if it took like if you had a meeting with Elon Musk 5 times a day, and knowing that in every meeting that you had with him was essentially a blank check for you, you just had to sit there, you had to focus, you had to understand. You understand. وَلِلَّهُ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى. You don't compare anyone to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it's just a small example because just we live in this world. But you're talking about people who turn away a phone call or a calling from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah's calling us 5 times a day. Then it's like Allah is the creator of everything. He's the giver, He's the taker, the sustainer, the maintainer, and so on and so forth. But we need to understand that part. So I think it's sometimes I lack the understanding of who Allah truly is and how much Allah has an impact on my life, and how Allah just being who He is deserves my praise and my worship just because He is Allah. But I forget that sometimes.
Yeah. And I think people who are fasting know that, like in their head, that's why they're not eating and drinking for 16 plus hours a day. But in their mind, like, I don't know where this, like, sort of, where this, I think we call it cognitive dissonance, right? Where, like, you don't connect certain dots. And so anyone who does that, like, I remember growing up kind of doing that when I was a kid. Anyone who doesn't pray while they're fasting, just sit with it and just ask, like, well, why am I doing this? Like, why am I abstaining from food and water? Is it because everyone else is, or is it because I truly am trying to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And if it is, then salah has to be there, bro. And I'm not trying to say this as like a burden. Dude, you're already fasting. Just cherry on top, just do your salahs.
Yeah. But I also think to a certain extent, and this is maybe the aspect of like being in and out of our deen, because the ultimate goal is to be able to say like, قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Like everything I do is for the sake of Allah. My eating, my sleeping, my being awake, everything. And sometimes we try to disconnect this dunya from the akhirah. This dunya is a means of getting you to the akhirah. Accept it. What you do here will have an effect on the end result. So it's like everything I do in this world can get me closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Working out, eating, sleeping, laughing, hanging out with my family, all of that is a means of getting closer to Allah. But we become, what's the word? Like, we're not present in the moment. We're not present anymore. If we were, then we would reflect and say, I'm doing this for the sake of Allah.